Hello Starbearers, this is GeoStar7 here and welcome to my review of AEW All in London. This event took place at Wembley Stadium just recently and I'm just here to give you my thoughts and opinions on not just the show itself but also each of the matches and the storylines going into them. So hopefully I can give you a good idea of what the show was like if you haven't been able to see it for yourself. So yeah, I just hope you enjoy. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is because, as you may already know, I am quite a big wrestling fan. I try to keep up to date with everything that's going on in WWE every week, but the same also applies to AEW All Elite Wrestling. I've actually been following the company since the very first episode of Dynamite aired on ITV 3 years ago. But even before then, I've been quite familiar with the people behind it. I think it actually all started in 2008 when they had another event called All In, and it was a show made up entirely of independent wrestlers, and they managed to sell more than 11,000 tickets, which some people thought was impossible for an independent wrestling show. By independent, I mean like a show that's not in the mainstream or a company that's not in the mainstream like WWE. But they did manage to sell that many tickets, and overall it was just a huge success, and it led to another event, I think in 2009, called Double or Nothing, and that ultimately led to the creation of AEW All Elite Wrestling. And like I say, I do keep up to date with their weekly shows like Dynamite, Rampage and Collision on ITV. But I've never had the chance to watch any of their pay-per-views. Because unlike the WWE, where they have their own network where you can, if you sign up, you can watch the pay-per-views live or on demand through their video library. AEW doesn't have anything like that, and they don't have a specific station that's easily accessible to me where I can just where I can go back and watch it live or on demand just like that. However, that all changed with All in London, because 5 days after the event, ITV4 decided to air the main show on ITV4, so I was able to watch the show like that, and I've got to say, very, very long show. It was 4 hours total, and that's not even counting the 2-hour pre-show that actually happened before it. It's just a lot of content to get through, so let's just get into it. Like I said, this event took place at Wembley Stadium, and they managed to sell 81,035 tickets. It set a new worldwide record for most paid attendance to a pro wrestling event ever. I say paid attendance because although WWE would claim they've put on shows with 80,000 people in attendance or 90,000 or even 100,000, they have admitted to counting everybody who's in the arena, like security, like catering staff and all that. So it's not specifically the paying fans that they're counting. So it kind of boosts the attendant figures up a little bit. But yes, this is apparently the new record for the most paid attendance for a pro wrestling event ever. As the people were actually coming into their seats, there were things going on in the ring because, you had to get that many people in. It's going to take time. But the first one was a contract signing between Powerhouse Hobbs and Miro, which was setting up for a match that was going to take place at AEW All In. So Powerhouse Hobbs was in the ring hyping up the match. Then Miro came out and he just signed the contract, and it all started breaking down into a fight. And so yeah, it's just a typical contract signing segment in wrestling. However, that's not what I was focusing on while I was watching this, because in the ring they had an entourage of supposedly security guards in order to keep things under control, and one of those security guards was Simon Miller. So for those of you who don't know, Simon Miller works for What Culture Wrestling, which is something over here in the UK, and he's a YouTube personality, and he has his own review show called Ups and Downs, where he reviews WWE, AEW events, and even sometimes he even attends the shows live, and then he comes out and he mingles with the crowd, and they just get involved in the video, and it's just really incredible because they really do like him because Simon Miller, he is like such a positive guy. He really makes his reviews just so thoroughly entertaining, and he's also a trained wrestler himself. Like he does wrestle part-time, and just to see him like at this AEW event, because he has connections in the professional wrestling world. There was someone, I think, in AEW who invited him to come backstage at Wembley Stadium for the show, and he even had this chance to play an extra as a security guard and to be involved with that. And I just thought that was incredible. Like, he's built this brand up for himself. He's so well recognized throughout the world, and even if you go to wrestling events, whenever you see a sign that says Simon give this an up or give this a golden up, that's because of him. That's people acknowledging Simon Miller because they watch his wrestling review show, and yeah, for him to actually feature on a show like this, even if it was just like a small cameo, I just thought that was incredible, really. And so anyway, moving on, the next segment had Tony Schiavone, who was one of the commentary team. He was just there thanking fans for their support and for being there. And then Hall of Famer Jeff Jarrett came out with his entourage, and he was just really causing trouble. And he said the fans in the United States were better, and he was dissing World of Sport, which is a wrestling promotion that's existed in the UK for a while. And it all culminated with 3 people coming out to confront him. There was Paul Wight, who used to be the Big Show in WWE. There was Anthony Ogogo, a former boxer who's now a British professional wrestler. And also Grado, another very well-known independent wrestler who's British. But yeah, they were just getting into a fight with Jeff Jarrett and the entourage, and it all ended with Grado breaking Jeff Jarrett's own guitar over his head. So yeah, just an entertaining little thing, and again, like acknowledging the British wrestling scene, which I thought was really good. Next up, we had our first match of the evening. And I think this one had the most story going into it, because it was Adam Cole and MJF taking on Kyle Fletcher and Mark Davis, Aussie Open, for the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championship. Now, this all started with Adam Cole and MJF facing each other for the AEW World Championship, because at the time of the show, MJF was the AEW World Champion. And MJF, he is just one of the most despicable heels you could possibly imagine. Like, he insults people by referencing their dead relatives, and he says all manner of evil and toxic things. Like, I'm amazed at how successful he is, and like he's actually younger than I am, and he's having this huge success as a wrestling champion. It is despicable, but people absolutely love to hate this guy. So anyway, it was happening where he was taking on Adam Cole for the AEW Championship on an episode of Dynamite, and Adam Cole was literally seconds away from pinning MJF to become the new champion. But what happened? The time limit expired, because AEW, unlike WWE, they have time limits on their matches, and if they exceed the time limit, it's automatically considered a draw, and in the event of a draw, the title reverts to the championship holder. And Adam Cole was not happy with that. He looked at MJF and he said, "F 5 more minutes, and MJS just blew him off and refused to go the extra 5 minutes because, of course, he wouldn't. Anyway, it looked like that MJF and Adam Cole were set to face each other in a rematch because they absolutely hated each other. But then there was, I believe, a tag team contenders tournament where random superstars were being paired up with each other in order to take part in a tournament where the winners would face the AEW Tag Team Champions for the titles. And as it so happened, Adam Cole and MJF were drawn together, so they had no choice but to be a tag team. And, they weren't happy about it at first, but then they started these segments where they were trying to sort of bond as tag team partners. Like, they went to a restaurant together, they went to a gym, I think they went to a trampoline park at one point. And throughout all of it, they were just really starting to get on with each other and really become like a well-oiled team. Like, they were starting to really like one another. I mean, everyone was assuming that either Adam or MJF were going to turn on each other at some point, but that just hasn't happened. And they actually got to the finals of the tag title tournament. They didn't win the championships, but MJF said to Adam Cole, win, lose or draw, I will give you another shot at the World Championship, and I'm going to give it to you at All In London, the main event of All In London. But as it so happened, that wasn't their only match for the night, because Adam Cole pulled some strings and got them a match against Aussie Open for the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships, which of course is this match I'm discussing now. So they faced Mark Davis and Kyle Fletcher, and there was just some entertaining bits as well. Like they've been getting over a move called the double clothesline. Like they've been really pushing that and pushing the fans to support it. Like they really want to see it. And then they're doing the same thing for another move called the kangaroo kick, because Aussie Open. And so MJF managed to hit that, and they beat them, and they became the new Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions. I mean, it was quite obvious that they were featuring this match first, because they had to give both Adam and MJF enough time to recover in order to be ready for the main event a bit later. But yeah, so that was our first title change of the night. And then from one championship to another, we then had Hook versus Jack Perry for the FTW Championship. This was the first time that this particular championship had been defended outside of the United States, because basically it's sort of this rogue championship that's supposedly not recognised by any sort of wrestling company. It was created by Taz, and the words and the initials FTW actually mean the World Championship. But anyway, so it was Taz's son Hook facing Jack Perry for the championship, and Jack Perry was the champion going into this, and he was just a despicable guy. Like it wasn't too long ago that he was actually known as Jungle Boy Jack Perry, and he was teaming up with Luchasaurus. He had some really catchy entrance music, and but yeah, eventually Luchasaurus turned his back on him. Jack Perry, he started to become a bit more bitter, and he dropped the whole Jungle Boy persona, and he's just become sort of like an aristocratic snob, if you know what I mean. Like, he's been coming out to Mozart music, and even here he arrived in a limousine. And the match actually began with Hook meeting him in the entranceway and them brawling around and even on top of the limousine. There was one point where even Hook actually body slammed Jack through the windscreen, which embedded a lot of glass in his back. It was just awful. And then there was a point where Jack Perry was insulting one of the people who he had defended the championship against. It was RVD Rob Van Dam. He did his whole Rob Van Dam thing, and then he did his Rolling Thunder on top of the limousine. And then later on, he looked like he was going for Van Dam's Van Terminator move. It's where you got your opponent up in the corner with a chair there, and the idea is you jump from one corner of the ring to another with this amazing flying kick. But Jack was on top of the ropes, and then just as he was about to do it, he jumped down and he gave the audience the middle fingers to say, screw you, I'm not giving you an exciting move like that. But anyway, in the end, Hook got Jack Perry in his Red Rum submission move, and he was able to get back the FTW Championship. And, Taz was on commentary. He was really happy for his son to have won this on such a great show and in Wembley Stadium and everything. It was, it's just another good moment. Right, so then the show began properly, and we began with CM Punk versus Samoa Joe for what he called the real World Championship. It's quite an interesting story going into this. CM Punk, he's been very popular with fans all around the world because even though he's a bit controversial, like, he claims to be the best in the world at what he does, and he backs it up in the ring, and he's said to speak the truth. Like, he breaks kayfabe, he talks about real world issues that are going on, and everyone just loves him for it. And so how it happened was, he did win the AEW Championship at one point, but then he got into a bit of an altercation with Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, and it resulted in all of them being suspended and being stripped of their championships. When CM Punk eventually came back from that, however, he still had the AEW Championship that he never lost. Even though a new AEW World Champion had been crowned, he still owned the original belt. So what he did was he spray painted an X on it, which was his symbol, and he claimed it as the real World Championship and that no one had beaten him for it yet. He was here and he was facing Samoa Joe, who he's had a very long rivalry with. I think he's only held one victory over Samoa Joe in his career, and that was in the Owen Hart Cup tournament, which was paying tribute to the late Owen Hart. But they just got into this match, and I should probably mention this before anything else. I actually had a couple of friends who actually went to the event live, and one of my friends, he's actually in video game development, and Samoa Joe actually voices one of the characters in the video game that he's working on. So he actually had the chance to meet with him and to speak with him and to take a picture and everything. And he and my other friend, they really have been able to speak to wrestlers and all sorts of things. I've personally never had that myself, but I've got a friend who actually work with one of those superstars who's actually working on a video game with them. But anyway, I digress. So going into this, although everyone did like CM Punk, when he came in, everyone was singing his theme song, Cult of Personality. But despite that, it was very clear that Samoa Joe was the favourite here. When they started punching back and forth, when Samoa Joe hit Punk, it was yay. When Punk hit him, it was boo, yay, boo, like that. It was very, very clear that Samoa Joe was the favourite to win here, and there was all these moves Samoa Joe smashed Punk against the barricade at one point, and then another point he lifted him up and he slammed him through the announce table sideways, busting him open, and there was some entertaining moments as well. CM Punk, I think he paid tribute to Terry Funk at one point when he did his drop toe hold maneuver because, unfortunately Terry Funk did pass away not so long ago. And then, but even before that, it looked like he was mocking John Cena when he lifted his arm up, and it looked like he was doing what Cena does when he signals the 5 moves of doom. And then he did the Hulk Hogan pose, and he hit Samoa Joe with the atomic leg drop. And I just really think that was really entertaining, because AEW really has become stiff competition for the WWE right now, and they do like to take these little jabs every now and again, and I just thought that was great. But yeah, in the end, CM Punk got Samoa Joe up for the Pepsi plunge, and he managed to beat him. But as great as the moment was, unfortunately, there was some repercussions afterwards. Apparently, he got into a backstage fight with Jack Perry, and at first it got him suspended, but now I do think that it has been confirmed that he has been fired from AEW because of various reasons. So yeah, it does seem like a shame that CM Punk's no longer with AEW, but he managed to go out on a real high note. He defended his championship on a show like this, and yeah, I'm just grateful for that. Okay, up next we had Kenny Omega, Hangman Adam Page, and Kota Ibushi taking on Konosuke Takeshita, Jay White, and Juice Robinson in a trios match. So yeah, these two teams, the Elite and Bullet Club Gold, they both stem from the Bullet Club faction that's in New Japan Pro Wrestling. And I just want to say I really love how AEW has these stars from New Japan Pro Wrestling and Ring of Honor. That's really something that AEW has over WWE. They're not afraid to acknowledge that there are other wrestling companies, and sometimes they have outside superstars coming in and performing on their shows, and sometimes AEW stars go out to New Japan and they perform for them. It's just really good, because it allows you to see a lot more superstars from in and outside the company, which WWE doesn't really do a lot of, really. But anyway, the story going into this match, I think, really stemmed from Don Callis, who was Kenny Omega's manager at one point when Kenny was the world champion. It stemmed from Don Callis stabbing him in the back and replacing him with Konosuke Takeshita, and it just led to this 2 teams of 3 just going out at All In. And Don Callis was on commentary, which I did find a little bit distracting, because it's very rare that you have a biased guest commentator for a pay-per-view match like this. It was a little bit distracting, but everyone in the arena really seemed to love Kenny Omega. He's a really big international star. They had to overcome quite a lot. There was Austin and Colton Gunn, who were also out there causing trouble. But yeah, it was, and like I say, great back and forth action. But in the end, there was a quick roll up and a 1-2-3, and yeah, so the heels got the win. And it did. I will say, with the match results, it really did feel like most of them were appealing to the crowd and what they wanted to see, because this is a really big event. You want to send fans home happy, but yeah, you have to have at least one heel team winning a match, and this, you have to balance it out. Right, up next was FTR and the Young Bucks for the AEW Tag Team Championships. This was the rubber match to determine who among the 2 teams were the best and who was worthy of being the tag team champions. This actually all started years ago, back when FTR were in WWE as the Revival. The Young Bucks were actually mocking them online with their YouTube show BTE, Being the Elite, and they actually dubbed them FTR, which means the Revival. However, chose to run with it. They embraced it. They even had hashtag FTR imprinted on their wrestling trunks, and they were just determined that one day they would be in the same company as the Young Bucks, and they would prove to them just who was better. And so then they came to AEW, fully embracing the FTR name, and the Young Bucks beat them in one match. They beat the Young Bucks in another, and so now it's the rubber match to determine, the tiebreaker. Now, before the match began, there was just this really great tribute from the Young Bucks to Freddie Mercury of Queen. They started their entrance with a sort of a reminiscent of "Oops, upside your head," but it was super kick, knock you out. The super kick knocked you out, and they were even wearing some tights some ring gear that was paying tribute to Freddie Mercury's old costume as well. And apparently, Jim Ross, who was on commentary, didn't know that Freddie Mercury had been dead for years. So yeah, there was that. And I just want to quickly mention, it was really great to have someone like JR do commentary for this show, because he's a true legend in the wrestling business. He's worked for WWE. He used to work for WCW. He now works for AEW. He's a legendary commentator, and he's not as full-time as he used to be, but it is still great that he's still working and doing these incredible events. And in fact, all the commentary team really did a good job, not just JR, but also Nigel McGuinness, Excalibur, Taz, Tony Schiavone. And they all had their chance to call different matches. Like throughout the night, they were rotating who was on the commentary team. But yeah, they all did an incredible job. But anyway, I digress. Next, FTR came out, and they had the Union flag design on their wrestling trunks, and they even had armbands paying tribute to both Brodie Lee and Bray Wyatt, because Brodie Lee is someone who I believe passed away last year, or either that or the year before, and Bray Wyatt was someone who passed away very recently at a very young age, and I felt like it was such a shame to lose him, by the way, because he was such a great creative mind. He had so much knowledge about the wrestling business and what and how he was presenting himself. And for him to have had that health problem and to have suffered a heart attack and passed away much too young, it really was a tragedy to lose him. But again, I digress though. I will, before the match began though, there is one thing that I found quite annoying. As part of their entrance, the Young Bucks actually had streamers fire off. And afterwards, you could see that a whole lot of them were caught up in the lighting rigs or whatever. They just stayed there flapping about throughout the rest of the night, which I found really distracting, if I'm being honest. But really, the Young Bucks, when I first started watching AEW, the Young Bucks really were what made me pay attention to tag team wrestling, because they've got this really high-speed, high-flying style, and it's just so entertaining to watch. In contrast, FTR are more of a grounded team, and they prefer to wrestle in a more traditional way. In fact, one of their catchphrases is "No flips, just fists." So yeah, it was a real clash of styles here, and yeah, they gave them quite a bit of time to just highlight just how great both of them are. There were different points where each of the teams were using the other team's finisher move. They stole them, like the Young Bucks did the Shatter Machine at one point, and FTR did the BTE trigger, and neither of them resulted in them winning. But yeah, it just kept like I say, it just kept going back and forth. Incredible clash of styles, and it really did feel like it was worthy of the "This is awesome" chant that started going around the arena. But yeah, in the end, FTR retained, but after the match, they did offer a handshake to the Young Bucks as a show of respect, and the Young Bucks refused to take it. So yeah, it is possible that they're starting to plant the seeds that maybe they're going to go heel after this, because both FTR and the Young Bucks were face teams going into this. But yeah, no, we'll just have to wait and see. Okay, up next we had what was perhaps my favourite match of the night. It was the Blackpool Combat Club taking on Eddie Kingston, Best Friends, Orange Cassidy, and Penta in a Stadium Stampede match. So for those of you who don't know, like, a Stadium Stampede match is basically a Falls Count Anywhere match between two teams of 5, and they're able to utilise the whole arena. It has happened a couple of times before where they've held this match at Daly's Place, and it's all been a completely empty arena so that they could make use of the whole place. But this time it's in such a prestigious arena like Wembley Stadium, and they're able to utilise the whole stadium with fans in attendance. And even before the match started, there was you had Jon Moxley and all the others coming out to Wild Thing, and they were entering through the crowd as they usually do, and security really had to be on hand because all the fans were flocking to see them, and so they had to do their job to keep them distant. But it was even crazier when the match began. Eddie Kingston didn't wait for the ring announcer to finish announcing his team. He just went straight after Claudio Castagnoli, and it was just pure carnage from that. They actually needed multiple cameras and referees everywhere just to keep track of everything. They actually used a split screen at one point because there was so much going on. They were fighting in the audience, in the backstage area, in the parking lot, and I think there was even another cameo from Simon Miller when they were fighting in catering. I personally didn't see that one myself, but according to Simon Miller, he did appear for like a millisecond on screen. So yeah, there was that. But yeah, there was just so many crazy spots in this match. Like there was one point where Penta brought out, he had wooden skewers, and he actually embedded them into Jon Moxley's already bloody head, and they were just driving them in, and when he took his hand away, they were literally sticking out of his skull, and Jon Moxley kept fighting despite that. And then there was another bit where Orange Cassidy, where because he's usually more of a laid back wrestler for his character, he did these really weak kicks in order to tick Moxley off, and it was just crazy to see something so comedic in just such a brutal match as this. But afterwards, Jon Moxley, and I'm not kidding, he got a fork and started stabbing Orange Cassidy in the head with it. Oh my god, that was terrible. And then the mother of one of the best friends turned up in her van. Her name was Sue. She provided baking trays with pastries on them so they could hit their opponents with it. And then I think there was actually one point where Penta was injured and he had to get taken out of the match, but then he came back as an evil alter ego of himself, like he was wearing different attire to show the change. And there was also a point where there were two guys on top of a ladder and it suddenly crumbled underneath them. It was completely broken. But what did they do? They climbed back up it and still used it, even though it was completely broken. But yeah, like, it's just non-stop carnage. And then the ending, wow, like, Orange Cassidy gave 3 of his orange punches and it still didn't win the match. So what he did was he got some duct tape, wrapped up his hand in the duct tape, and then embedded the duct tape into a bucket of broken glass. And the shards went everywhere. There were some covering the ring apron or the ring mat, and so people were rolling around in them, and it was terrible. And then Cassidy with his glass fist, he did one more orange punch, and mercifully that was the end of it. I was like, oh my god, it was just so much carnage and so much blood. Like I said, this was probably the match of the night for me. And from one great match to another, we then had the 4-way match for the AEW Women's Championship. It was Hikaru Shida, Toni Storm, Britt Baker, and Saraya, like I said, fighting for the AEW Women's Championship. Now, despite being a heel, Saraya was undoubtedly the favourite in this match because, you know, she's from England, and this was apparently the first time she'd wrestled in her home country in 8 years. She's also famous for coming back from an injury which she thought was the end of her career. Not to mention, her story is the focus of the film Fighting with My Family. I've not seen it myself, I really need to, but it does detail like how she got into the wrestling industry and how she first got into WWE as Paige, and yeah, so she was she's very well known in the British wrestling, and so she was definitely the favourite to win here. And she actually came out with another tribute to Freddie, Mercury and Queen, where she came out to "We Will Rock You," and also her whole family came out with her, because her family, if you've seen the movie Fighting with My Family, they're all involved with the wrestling industry in some way, shape or form, like her brother, like her father, her mother, her cousin. They were just really there to show their support, which I thought was a really great gesture. And then Toni Storm came out, and she actually came out to "God Save the King," so there was that as well. But anyway, the main story I think going into this was that because Saraya and Toni Storm, they're both part of a group called the Outcasts. And, they were both trying to win the World Championship. There was a point where they both had an opportunity to pin someone, but they couldn't decide among them who should be, the one to get the win. And then later on, there was a part where Saraya's mum was getting involved. She was holding Britt Baker for Toni Storm to punch her, but Britt got out the way. Toni missed and actually hit Saraya's mum, which, as you can imagine, got her furious, and they were just going out against each other. And then the third member of the Outcasts, Ruby Soho, came out and tried to stop her, but Toni hit her as well. And it was just really all that carnage. But in the end, Saraya did get the pin, and she did become the new AEW Women's Champion, because, of course she did. We're in Wembley Stadium. Saraya, Saraya's a British wrestler. I think everyone in the arena was there to support her, even though she was a bad guy. And it was just a really great moment. It was very clear they were trying to go for something like the British Bulldog winning the Intercontinental Championship at SummerSlam in, I think, 92, I believe. And then her family came in to celebrate with her. It was just a really great moment to see her, with winning that championship in a place like Wembley Stadium on such a grand stage as All in London. It was really good. Right, next up was Darby Allin and Sting versus Swerve Strickland and Christian Cage in a coffin match. The object of this one was to get one of your opponents inside a coffin and to close the lid for the win. And this one also had a couple of pretty good entrances. Swerve Strickland came out to Flash Garments and DJ Woohoo Kid singing his entrance theme. But then afterwards, Darby Allin and Sting had this video package where they were walking and skating through the streets of London like it was the Victorian era. Sting was even dressed in a large coat and a top hat to go with it. And then Sting revealed that his face was half painted like it normally was, and then the other half was painted as Joker Sting from his TNA days. So yeah, he brought that little persona to cut back for this one night. And yeah, I've got to say, like, to have someone like Sting perform at this event at Wembley Stadium, I think it was incredible, because you have to keep in mind, Sting is actually 64 years old and he is still wrestling, and he's a true legend and a true icon of the business. And just for him to have competed at this event again, it was just incredible. And he actually had a little tribute to the British fans as well. Like, he did come out with the baseball bat that he usually has, but he also brought a cricket bat as well. Yes, a cricket bat, Michael Cole, not a club. If you've seen my review for Money in the Bank, you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, and Darby also brought out thumbtack covered jackets, which they used as well. It was, and like I say, it was crazy. It was, like I say, it was no disqualification, so it was getting violent. And at one point, Darby Allin actually had his hands taped behind him, so he wasn't able to use his hands. But despite that, he managed to not only dive through the ropes, but he did a moonsault maneuver off the second rope. So literally, with his hands behind his back, he ran towards the second rope and did a backflip onto his opponent. That was just crazy. And then there were other things as well, like Christian went for his famous concerto move with a steel chair. Luchasaurus, the TNT champion, interfered. Nick Wayne made an appearance. Darby fittingly did his coffin drop move on top of the coffin. And then there was even a moment where Swerve hit Sting with a steel chair, and Sting acted like it didn't do anything. He completely no-sold it. And I have to say, there was another entertaining moment where it looked like Sting had been beaten, like Swerve Strickland had him in the coffin, but he made the mistake of throwing the baseball bat in with him. You know, it was kind of symbolic, like he was burying the man and the legend of Sting along with the bat. But as he went to close the door, Sting actually got the bat and he used it to block the lid from being closed all the way, which I thought was really creative. But yeah, in the end, Sting and Darby Allin, they did get Swerve in the coffin, and they just got it for the win. So yeah, like I said, I think this was really the point of the show where I was getting really entertained by what I was seeing. Okay, up next was Chris Jericho versus Will Ospreay. This was another feud involving Don Callis. The way it started was that Don Callis was trying to tempt Chris Jericho into joining what he called the Don Callis family, and Chris Jericho was very tempted to do it. He even started paying less attention to his own group that he was heading at the time, called the Jericho Appreciation Society. All of the members started to leave him because they felt like he was turning his back on them, and then Jericho agreed to join the Don Callis family, but Don Callis hadn't expected him to say yes, and as it turned out, he had created a piece of artwork with himself holding the severed head of Chris Jericho, and once Jericho saw that, he saw Don Callis for who he truly was, and then they started getting into a heated exchange, and then Don Callis recruited Will Ospreay in order to take out Chris Jericho, and so yeah, it led to this. And you know, I've just another thing. You know, Will Ospreay. He's another well-known British wrestler, and I really love how much he's he's grown and proven himself in the industry. Like, I think at the time of the show here, he was the IWGP UK champion, and he's just had so much other success as well, like in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and he's been appearing for AEW several times, and I think actually one of my favourite moments that I've seen with him was back in What Culture Pro Wrestling. It was a short-lived company, but yeah, in that he had the chance to face, I think, Rey Mysterio, who was one of his idols growing up, and after the match he said, like, you know, he felt like so honoured, and like everything he's ever done has been worth it because he's had the chance to compete in the ring against a man who he considers his hero. And then Ray gave him his mask afterwards as a show of respect, and to show that to remind him, you know, how good he is and to never forget it. And yeah, it was just yes. So that was one of my favourite moments of that company's existence. Anyway, though, so this match began, and well, even before it began, Jericho came out with, would you believe it, another Freddie Mercury tribute. I think Freddie Mercury played at Wembley Stadium so many times over the years when he was still alive, but yeah, he did the thing with his band where he would do his old "oh-eh-oh, oh-eh-oh, eh-oh, eh-oh," you know, that interaction with the audience. And then Fozzy, which is Chris Jericho's band, they played him to the ring. They played Judas Effect, and I think that's what it's called. And Jericho was singing the lyrics with him, and basically everyone in Wembley Stadium was singing along. Coming home, hey, Judas set my mind. Like it was incredible. And then Will Ospreay came out, and they had their match, and there were quite a few crazy spots here. Like at one point, there was this vicious German suplex on the ring apron. Will Ospreay got hit in the head with a baseball bat while he was in the Walls of Jericho's submission move, but that still wasn't enough to get him to tap out or pass out. Jericho gave him a low blow behind the referee's back, and he still couldn't pin him. And yeah, in the end, Will Ospreay won because again, like I said, it was it's taking place in Britain. Will Ospreay is from England, and yeah, like I said, it's just giving people, showing the fans in England, like, you know, they do appreciate them. They do want to give them this recognition to their homegrown talent, and yeah, I really did feel like Will Ospreay did deserve it, even if he was the bad guy going into this. There was even a bit more of development after the match as well, because Sammy Guevara, who was the one member of the Jericho Appreciation Society who didn't leave Chris Jericho, who didn't turn his back on him after he got rid of the society, he was out there. He was trying to say, hey man, it's all right, like it's fine, like these people still appreciate you, and Jericho just shoved him away and just walked out on him, which does seem like it's going to be developing the story a little bit more. Okay, up next, it was The Acclaimed and Billy Gunn versus Malachi Black, Brodie King, and Buddy Matthews, the House of Black, for the World Trios Championship. So yeah, the story going into this one was that the House of Black had previously beat Billy Gunn and The Acclaimed at one point, and they had actually coaxed Billy Gunn into actually retiring, and, you know, he left his boots in the ring, but then House of Black was sort of like disrespecting his legacy and saying it's good that he's gone, and that eventually brought Billy Gunn back to get revenge. And so yeah, in spite of that though, like, I think the House of Black showed a different side of themselves this evening, because they came out wearing white attire, and they even brought out a lantern, which was clearly another tribute to Bray Wyatt, because he always came out holding a lantern, and I think even Excalibur, who was on commentary, he mentioned the fireflies, which was referencing the phone lights, which the crowd would often hold up in dark arenas to like pay tribute to Bray Wyatt. And when the Acclaimed came in, there was they did their usual entrance where they have a unique rap number. And of course this one was themed to Great Britain. I think Max Caster, he dissed Prince Andrew and Meghan Markle. He called their opponents Harry, Ron and Hermione. You know, it's just having that little bit of a, you know, British spin on it. And I think even Julia Hart had her moment. She's the manager of House of Black. She took quite an embarrassing and quite a painful maneuver after she slapped Billy Gunn. She took the scissor me timbers, which I won't go into detail, but let's just say it does involve the groin. And there was also a vicious maneuver in the corner, which I think was called the three-headed Hydra. Julia Hart, when the referee was making a final count, she actually had the nerve to pull the referee out and stop the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn winning, even though they just performed 3 Famouses and it was very clear they were going to beat them. But yeah, in the end, it took both members of the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn to keep down Brodie King, and they all pinned him together and they won the Trios Championships. And after the match, a couple of interesting things after the match, really. First of all, House of Black, you know, despite their brooding manner and despite all the disrespect they'd shown to Billy Gunn and the Acclaimed, they actually personally handed the titles over to the winners as like a show of respect. And you know, I think it's really amazing that Billy Gunn is a champion, because you know he has been in the business for quite a few decades, and yeah, it's just incredible to seeing him with a championship again. And then just before they left, they decided to have what they called a scissor party, where where everyone held up their scissor signs and they say "Scissor me," and they did their whole thing, and everyone was just really getting into it. Strangely enough, they kept showing Mercedes Moné, who used to be Sasha Banks in WWE. They kept showing her on the screen watching this, because she was in attendance watching the show. So don't know exactly what they're planting with her. Maybe she's gonna be part of AEW at some point, but we'll just have to see. And then finally we had the big main event. It was Adam Cole and MJF for the AEW Championship. Just quickly, one thing I didn't mention before is that there's actually sort of a third person involved in this. It's actually Adam Cole's friend, a friend for many years, Roderick Strong. Like, he was getting frustrated with Adam and his relationship with MJF, saying, like, he's how can you not see he's going to turn on you? Like, I'm your friend. Why are you not listening to me? And Adam Cole was just getting tired of him saying, like, you know, look, I trust Max, okay? He's my partner. We're friends, okay? Stop interfering with this. And so you just knew that there was going to be something to do with him later on. But yeah, Adam Cole had his boom baby entrance going out, and MJF was actually wheeled out to the ring on a throne, wearing a mask and being bowed to like he was the Devil King or something. Just before starting, they also, both MJF and Adam Cole, they did put on their tag team shirts. Supposedly this was to show that win, lose or draw, they would still have respect for each other as tag partners, and they wouldn't try to cheat their way to a quick victory. And they even shook hands, which is very uncharacteristic for MJF if you've known his character. And yeah, there were just some great moments here as well. Like MJF was actually strutting like Ric Flair at one point and swiveled his hips like Ravishing Rick Rude. then I think at some point animosity started to pick up when Adam Cole was saying like, "I'm better than you," and he ripped off MJF's shirt and threw it out. And then I think there was also a moment where MJF almost got counted out, and if he keep in mind, if he had been counted out, he would have retained the championship, because titles can't change hands on a disqualification or count out. So I think the old MJF would definitely have taken that win, but at the very last second he got to his feet and rushed into the ring to break the 10 count. But it was starting to show, like, you know, this having a conscience was starting to affect MJF slightly. Like at one point he went to do a tombstone on Adam Cole on the announce table, but he didn't do it because he just felt it was too vicious. But Adam Cole didn't hesitate. He actually lifted him up and he did the tombstone. And it was quite clear that even though MJF was, you know, is intended as the heel, like he's a total scumbag, and you know, and everyone knows it, but like he was the favourite to win this. Like I said, it was like with CM Punk and Samoa Joe earlier, when you did the hits back and forth, the crowd was going yay when MJF hit a blow, and then boo for Adam Cole whenever he did it, so that was happening, and eventually it was going like, this is awesome, like, and like I said, I agree with it. Then I think I can't remember how long. I think it was like 20 minutes or so into the match or something. They decided to do They agreed to do a double clothesline on each other. So they ran back and forth and they hit each other at the same time. But while they were lying on the mat, the referee actually counted 3 because they were both covering each other, and so it looked like there'd been a double pin and that the match had ended in a draw. And understandably, fans were absolutely furious. Like, this was the end to this great night, to this great match. It's going to end on a draw, just like it did on Dynamite. That's when Adam Cole snatched the microphone and says, no, this is not happening. And he went to MJF, and just like on Dynamite, he said 5 more minutes. However, MJF said, no. 5 minutes isn't long enough. We are going to keep going until we have a winner in Wembley. So the match was restarted. There was a point where the referee got knocked out. There was a funny sequence where I think both MJF and Adam Cole were sort of channeling Eddie Guerrero. Like, they were doing that thing where they would toss the chair to one another and then lie on the floor to make it look like they'd been hit with the chair. So they were going back and forth with the chair. Then Adam threw it to MJF, and he went on the floor to make it look like he'd been hit. But then MJF took the folding chair, put it on his head, and then he lied down to make it look like he'd been hit. And so, and then he tried to take advantage of the confusion when the ref was questioning what was going on, and then by trying to get a roll-up pin, but it didn't work. There was another point where I think Adam Cole performed a Panama Sunrise on MJF, and then he did one to the referee by accident. It was at this point MJF had his Dynamite Diamond ring, which he's used to win matches sometimes, and he was going to knock him out, but once again his conscience got the better of him. He took it off and he put it back, and like, it's really showing just like how much his character's grown. Like, if this was the old MJF, he most definitely would have taken that way out to win, but Adam Cole wasn't showing that much restraint. And then at one point, like I said, Adam's friend Roderick Strong appeared, neck brace and all. He low blowed MJF, and Cole reluctantly took advantage of it, but the referee was still out, so he wasn't able to make the pin. And then Roderick demanded that Adam Cole hit MJF with the title. Adam even threw off his shirt to make it look like looked like he'd given up on the tag team and he was going to do it, but then he just threw the title down saying, no, I can't, I'm not doing it that way. But that ultimately ended up being his own undoing, because at that point, MJF finally got the small package for the win, and he did retain the AEW Championship. Adam was in absolute tears that he'd lost, but MJF came over and said, "Hey, look, what we did was incredible tonight. Look, I was just lucky. It could have been either one of us. You know, these people still appreciate you. They love you." And then he got the tag titles to show, "Hey, look, we've still got these. Like, we're still a team." Like, and then shockingly, Adam took the title and just threw it out of the ring, and MJF was absolutely appalled. He thought he thought like Adam was showing his true colours. Like, he didn't care about the tag team. All he cared about was the World Championship, and he was furious. It's like, "You want this? You want this? You take it!" And he threw it at Adam Cole, and then he turned his back and he demanded that he hit him with it to show his true colours and to show who he really was. And Roderick Strong was on the outside. He was coaxing Adam Cole to do it as well. Like, "Come on, do it!" But yeah, in the end, Adam just couldn't do it. He threw it down, and in the end, he and MJF just hugged it out, showing that they were still strong as a tag team. And you know, it's pretty incredible drama, but yeah, pretty great way to end the show, all things considered. And then after the show, this didn't air on the main show. It was after they went off the air, but both Adam Cole, MJF, and even Tony Khan, who's the owner of AEW, they all came out and they made a huge announcement. They said thank you to the fans for coming here, for supporting them, for selling out this incredible event of over 81,000 fans, and they've had such a great time that they're gonna do it again next year. AEW All In 2 will be taking place in London next year in August, and everyone just absolutely loved it. And you know, it makes sense, because like with how quickly they managed to sell these tickets and have this incredible crowd and everything. Like, I think, you know, we have shown that, like, you know, British fans are just as enthusiastic about wrestling as those over in America. And you know we have had Clash at the Castle with WWE. They had Money in the Bank recently. They had AEW's had this All In event, and you know there's we've shown that there's money to be made from it. So yeah, I wasn't able to go to this All In live, but you never know. Maybe next year. And so anyway, just to conclude, this really was an incredible show, and like they had all these tributes to people like Terry Funk, like Bray Wyatt, like Brodie Lee, sorry, like Freddie Mercury. They just had all these incredible tributes throughout the show, and the entrances were incredible as well. Like they had so many, like they had Chris Jericho with Judas and all those other things, and yeah, I have to say, like, very incredible show, because, and I would honestly say that I think this All In show, like, it could potentially be AEW's equivalent to WWE's WrestleMania, because, you know, the company all started with that event called All In. You know, they sold out Wembley Stadium to over 81,000 fans, which they say is a record-breaking paid attendance for a pro wrestling event. And you know, they could. I'd say they could keep doing it, and they could keep making money from it. I really believe in it, and like I said, just we'll just have to wait and see just how successful it gets. Like I said, we're having another one next year, and after that, who knows? It could be a yearly thing. But anyway, anyway, I just want to say, guys, that's all I've got for my review of AEW All In. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. I know it might sound like I've just been rambling and maybe not paying so much attention to the camera and that, but yeah, this is just something that I'm very passionate about, and I just really wanted to share my thoughts and opinions with you on this show, and because I just really like to just get it out to all of you, and I just if you've taken the time to watch this, then I really do appreciate it. But anyway, that's about all I've got. So guys, thank you so much for joining me. Like the video, share and subscribe, and hopefully I'll be able to see you in the next video that I do. So until then, stay tuned.